Hey y'all, if you've stumbled across this video, it is highly likely that you are personally worried about getting cancer. So one thing that you can do right now is eat more antioxidants. Antioxidants are the parts of fruits and vegetables that give them their color. They're called antioxidants because they prevent oxidation damage. The core cause of cancer is changes to your DNA that cause your cell to uncontrollably replicate. Oxidation is how those changes occur naturally. Being alive is kind of like being on fire all the time. You need to be in order to live, but it does also do damage constantly. And your cells do have a whole built-in defense team that fix these problems when they can. And if they can't fix the problems, then they signal your immune system to destroy the cancer cell. And the key protein that does this in humans is p53. The reason why elephants and blue whales don't typically get cancer. When I did my research, I found there are actually rare instances where it does still happen. But the reason why, in general, elephants and whales don't get cancer is because their bodies have many different forms of proteins like p53 that repair their genetic damage. By having many extra copies of your cancer prevention gene, it means that if one of those copies gets deleted or damaged by accident, the cell still has many other copies doing that job. When I was waiting in a waiting room and saw an ad for a sickle cell disease treatment using a CRISPR editing shot, I came to the immediate conclusion that that was going to be the cure for cancer, was use that CRISPR editing shot to give humans those various extra versions of p53. But when I actually went home and did some research, I found an unexpected candidate that is more likely to actually be embraced and used. Because remember how horrified people were that CRISPR editing had been used to create the COVID vaccines? Like, the COVID vaccines don't actually edit your DNA. That's not how CRISPR was used for that. In the vaccines, CRISPR was done to edit bacteria so that the bacteria would create the antigens, or just the mRNA, that your immune system needed to see and recognize to defend against COVID. As long as I'm talking about vaccines, there is this sign at my local hospital that bothers me a lot. Because sick as a symptom, as a side effect from vaccines is actually real. When I was studying immunology to become a medical lab technician, one of the hardest things was learning the right symptoms for each disease, because almost all of them include flu-like symptoms as a core variable. And the reason for that is that fevers, achiness, runny nose, those are just what it feels like when your immune system is doing work. If you feel sick the day after you get a vaccine, it means that your immune system was doing active work in response to it, which actually means that you did not have that immunity built previously. The COVID vaccine, getting the first shot made me really, really sick. The second shot, a bit less sick. And then the preceding ones are now just as easy as a flu shot. Coming back to the cure for cancer talk, the stigma against getting the gene therapy is what would be the hardest part to overcome, to have CRISPR gene therapy having universal protections. Because medically speaking, when you cure a disease, what you're actually doing is making your entire populace fully immune to it. We've nearly cured polio by making everyone vaccinated, which is why it was a problem when Obama used the vaccinations as an opportunity to gather intel for catching Osama bin Laden. Killing Osama bin Laden didn't fix terrorism. The potential problem I see with using CRISPR for the blue whale and elephant extra P53 option is that I don't know if it could be done with just one CRISPR editing shot, or if you would need to have a separate shot for each redundant version. The plethora of copies that blue whales and elephants have aren't just mimics of each other. They do each provide slightly different benefits and functions. But the unexpected discovery is that naked mole rats don't use extra copies to gain their resistance to cancer. I will link the papers I read in the comments, but the one I found for naked mole rats, it's described that their real protection comes from hyaluronic acid, which is the fancy, expensive product that they put in luxury lotions. I found a separate study that described testing an oral dose of hyaluronic acid to see if it could still impact your skin, which would be really interesting to test out to see if it has potential benefits beyond just making people pretty. The scientists found a gene that causes naked mole rats to excrete large quantities of hyaluronic acid. They originally ran across this because they noticed that when they were trying to vacuum suction clean the mole rat samples from their petri dishes, that their vacuum hoses kept getting gunked up. And it was because hyaluronic acid is a really thick sticky substance. And the reason why I think this is our most likely publicly embraceable method is because it's the Ozempic of cancer cures, where Ozempic is a proper diabetes medication, but it gets used for weight loss because it does that too. In this case, the gene editing for producing hyaluronic acid to reduce cancer risk would also be a pretty package. Because it makes people pretty, they're more likely to embrace it. So, I have given you personal prevention and future possible cure. But if you have cancer right now, what I'd like to see become more easily available are the specialized antibody treatments. When I took my biotechnology class, I was paying very close attention to what potential treatments were being worked on, because my mom's side of the family has massively high cancer risks, and even on dad's side of the family, I have a great aunt who's a 3 times cancer survivor. While I was studying genetics, my sophomore year of high school, my grandmother was diagnosed as terminal with her cancer, which originally started as ovarian cancer. And her older sister came to the farm to help out with her. And Mom and I made trips across the state every weekend to also help take care of Grandma. While everyone was gathered, there was a lot of conversation about who in the family had cancer. And when I plotted out the family tree and marked down who had what, it looked exactly like the table in my textbook describing royal family inherited hemophilia. I am quite certain it is not a coincidence that the cancer risk in my family started with my great grandma Spencer. I've been letting my roots grow out blonde so that I could pass a MatPat style DNA test for confirming that I am distantly cousinish to Princess Diana. I have just enough British aristocracy in my DNA to make me really, really sick without any of the family inheritance to pay for the medical bills. This is America. So if there was any remaining family fortune with my great grandma, it was used to treat her cancer. But coming back from the tangent, so that's why when I started my biotechnology class, I was still personally very, very worried about cancer. But having taken it, I feel much more confident in my immune system's ability to take care of it itself. And if we don't get my cancer shot cure before I get my cancer, the specialized antibody therapies are what I would personally push for hard. That's not to say that I would not do chemotherapy, but it wouldn't be my first go-to option. I hope that I've made this subject understandable for you. If you have any questions at all, please let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day. Bye!